I've lived by Ash Creek my whole damn life, and let me tell you that river's been winding along the edge of my family's land since before Wyoming was even a state, back when it was just wild grass, bison, and hard-headed folks trying to make a future out of mud and sunlight my granddad called the creek. The old neighbor never tried to fence it, never thought to fight it, just lived beside it, worked around it, watched it rise and fall every year like breathing. Same as my father and his father before him, just the way things were supposed to be. So when the rains came that spring, those long bruised weeks of thunder rolling low over the hills and the sky looking ready to break open for days, I didn't panic. I'd seen Ash Creek swell plenty of times, learned how to listen to it, but I wasn't dumb either. I walked the banks every morning, checked the lowland pasture by the south fence, made sure the old orchard spill dam was holding patched up weak spots with sandbags, kept the cattle far from the edge, and made damn sure every culvert on my side was clean water. Wants to move, the trick is not to stand in its way. But by the end of that second week, you could just feel it pressure building, not just in the river but in the air, like something was wound up tight and waiting to snap. Sure enough, Saturday morning it happened. Storm rolled in overnight, dumped what felt like half the Pacific up in those hills, and by sunrise, Ash Creek just let go, burst her banks, roared down the floodplain with a force that would have made Noah nervous, except she rolled right along my slope, curved south, and smashed straight into Clear River Meadows, that new HOA neighborhood downstream. Now, I got history with those folks. Their HOA tried to sue me 5 years back for noise pollution, as if a John Deere tractor at 5:30 in the morning was somehow an offense to their suburban peace. Never mind, my family's been waking up cows with that same tractor long before their Tuscan villas ever popped up out there in the middle of nowhere. I won that fight, proved in court their bylaws meant nothing to me, and that their precious community standards didn't reach past their own mailbox. Since then, we just kept to ourselves. But I'll admit, when I heard that 5 houses got flooded, their fancy entrance gate crumpled like a soda can, roads buckled, power blown, I didn't exactly cry over it, because I knew it wasn't my doing. 3 days later, I'm out mending a busted latch on the East Corral sun, just warming the mud, when I hear the crunch of tires on gravel. I look up gray suit, polished Lexus, some city type, holding a leather folder like it might bite him. He gives me that legal kind of fake sympathy, introduces himself on behalf of the Clear River Meadows HOA, then hands me a thick envelope official as a tax bill. Inside, a printed check, $3.2 million payable to the HOA. I just stare at it, then at him, and for a second I wonder if I'm on some hidden camera show. But no, he's serious. The HOA holds you responsible for the recent flood damage, citing failure to maintain proper flood controls on your portion of the Ash Creek riverfront. Claims I don't have modern retention infrastructure, and it's my lack of stewardship that sent the water into their homes. I blink once, then laugh so hard the guy actually steps back. You people really have lost your damn minds, I say. You think I own the river? He just keeps reading his script, talking about riparian liability and settlement offers, says if I pay and sign a release within 15 days, they'll drop further legal action. Otherwise, they're taking me to court. He leaves all smooth tires and dust, and I sit down on the porch steps, envelope in hand, wind smelling like wet cottonwood and old rain. They're coming at me for $3 million over a flood, and somehow they've convinced themselves it's my fault. But with Karen Winters running the show, oh Karen, queen of HOA drama, there's no such thing as patience. Didn't even wait for a reply. First came the banner's big red vinyl stretched across their brick entrance like a 4th of July parade pay for the flood. Mr. Hogarth accountability starts upstream. I had to laugh. Karen must have ordered those the minute she heard about the flood. Next came the newspaper article, whole column in the Valley Ledger. Karen herself penning righteous anger, talking about neglected public safety, failure to implement hydrological best practices. She even made it sound like I was single-handedly destroying the valley. People at the feed store stopped making small talk, started looking at me sideways. I wasn't mad. Karen just knew how to spin a story, and folks love a villain when it means they got something to gossip about. Then came the class action rumors. My old friend Tom Delaney, who lives in the HOA, called and said Karen riled up the neighborhood, convinced half of them to join a lawsuit against me. The room was split. Some folks just wanted their basements dry. The others wanted my head on a stick. That's when I called Julian Brantley. My lawyer, sharp as a tack, loves a good fight, got the HOA off my back last time. He didn't even blink. They're trying to stick you with riparian liability for a state-managed creek, he said, already 2 steps ahead. Send me the claim, the check, the article, everything. 3 days later, he called back. Good news, the state owns the creek. Always has. Your land's got a buffer, nothing more. You've got recorded easements, and if you try to dam that water, the state'd be at your door before Karen could hang a new banner. In other words, not my circus, not my monkeys. But Karen didn't stop. She just got louder, painting me as a criminal. So I fought fire with fire, wrote my own letter, plain talk, no legal mumbo-jumbo, told my side, handed it out everywhere, feed store, town hall, even the diner. Said I don't own Ash Creek, never altered the river, won't pay for rain. I didn't order, but I'll defend myself every way I can. Didn't stop Karen, but it did turn some heads. Someone left a note on my windshield, 6 shaky words. We believe you. Don't back down. Damn right I wouldn't. Defense can only take you so far. So I went on offense, called the local reporters, not the big city types, but folks who knew a hay baler from a leaf blower. Walked them down to the creek, showed the flood markers, my patched-up dam from Grandpa's days still holding strong. Then pointed to the HOA side houses built on a state-mapped floodplain. Ornamental bridges over marsh, narrow channels where water used to spread out. I brought in Mara Simons, independent hydrologist, sharper than any lawyer I know, ran tests, checked topography, wrote a 42-page report blaming the flood damage squarely on HOA modifications, unpermitted bank changes, erased buffers, failure to reinforce. Cherry on top, Julian found a canceled contract 2 months before the flood. HOA killed shoreline reinforcement to save money for, get this, landscaping. So let's review. They built in a flood zone, ignored state warnings, canceled safety work, and now wanted me to foot the bill. I sent Karen a certified letter, said her accusations were defamation, and I meant it. Attached Mara's report, CC'd every news outlet in the state. Julian filed a counterclaim for defamation and harassment, asking for $1 million in damages. Then fate handed us a gift. Harold Vince, former HOA board member, called up. Julian said he had something I needed. We met at the Greystone Diner. Harold looking like he hadn't slept in a year. He told me Karen ignored warnings from engineers, fired contractors who flagged the shoreline, killed state grant paperwork to avoid bad optics before re-election, and then tried to bury the evidence. Gave me a USB of board meeting recordings, Karen on tape, saying if we make it through spring without a problem, no one will care about the river. It's just optics. We need that money for landscaping. Then it went to court. The HOA sued for $3.2 million negligence, public nuisance, whatever they could throw at me. I showed up in boots and my best shirt just to annoy them, while Karen rolled in with lawyers' binders and a half-dozen homeowners looking like they'd never seen mud. The judge, Melanie Groves, wasn't impressed. Karen sighed through maps and models, claimed the breach started on my land. Julian calmly handed the judge state documents, easements, Mara's report proof that the HOA narrowed the channel and built homes where the floodplain wanted to be. Then he dropped the contract cancellation. Karen's face went sheet white. Julian presented Mara's findings. Ash Creek is public water. The upstream banks were untouched. Any damage was caused by the HOA's own decisions. He even played Harold's recordings, Karen admitting to diverting funds and rolling the dice with public safety. Her lawyers tried to argue moral stewardship. Julian laughed. If that's the standard, half the state should be on trial for bad weather. Judge Groves warned the HOA their own liability was on the table, ordered them to submit all their records. Evidentiary hearings got brutal. Mara testified, made Karen's lawyers sweat, bullets laid out. how the HOA altered the natural flood expansion, how every disaster could have been avoided if they'd followed basic guidance. Then Harold took the stand, detailed how Karen manipulated budgets, silenced board dissent, delayed grant applications, and called the flood a non-event. The judge let the emails and recordings speak for themselves. If the flood was such a non-event, why sue me? Julian wrapped it up with a clip, Karen on video. Ash Creek is Daniel's problem until we figure out how to make it ours. The room shifted. Even some HOA folks looked sick. County engineers confirmed the public road culverts weren't the issue. Water only exceeded capacity because of the HOA's landscaping. The blame game was over. I never had to take the stand. Julian said, "Let their words do the work." By the last day, the hearing room was packed. Judge Groves didn't waste time. Ruled in my favor, said the HOA had no case, called their claim a deliberate misrepresentation of state law, then hit them for malicious prosecution, ordered $950,000 in damages, $420,000 for harm to my name, $530,000 for legal costs and penalties. Karen's face could have cracked glass. The HOA was ordered to halt all public statements, open their finances to audit, and appoint a new administrator. Karen got the boot removed by unanimous vote, lost her job at the county for ethics violations, and that landscaping project she wanted canceled. The press had a field day. HOA hit with legal tsunami, the flood that broke the HOA. But honestly, my real victory was the quiet. Woke up the next day at 5:30, started the tractor, and for the first time in months there was peace, just me, the land, and Ash Creek whispering soft and free. A month later we threw a fair Wyoming-style canvas, tents, hay bales, local bands, even a few HOA folks showed up with pie. I stood on a crate and told the truth. If someone hands you a $3 million bill for rainwater, hand it back with a shovel and ask where they were when the sandbags went down. Folks laughed. Mara sipped lemonade. Harold wore a Hawaiian shirt. Julian grilled ribs. Someone handed me a shirt. I survived the flood in the HOA that followed. Damn right I did. So here's my question for you. What do you think justice really looks like when the law and the land collide? Is it rules or is it what's right? Drop your thoughts in the comments, especially if you've ever tangled with an HOA or been blamed for something nature did all on her own. Let's hear what you'd have done standing in my boots.